Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Lora Rolling and this is part 1 of the reindeer ornament tutorial. This is the reindeer ornament that we are making. It is so cute with all the little holly berry plants and the reindeer. And today we're going to be doing the unit called Holly Berries. We just have a few materials to get ready, so let's get them listed and then we can get started. Let's go. So the beads that we're going to be using in today's video are all Miyuki Delicas. I have chalk white, dyed silver lined red, silver lined green, opaque chartreuse AB, and silver lined crystal. Just to keep this simple, I'm going to call this white, red, green, light green, and silver. We'll also need some beading thread and a beading needle. I like to use the Eslon Fire in the color crystal, and this is 4-pound thread. You could also use a 6-pound thread if that's what you prefer. And I also like to use a size 10 beading needle. If all you have is a size 11 or a size 12, that would work too. For implements, I like to hold on to my thread at the end with long nose pliers, and then I cut my thread with scissors. And then I use the fire method to end the tail, and I'm going to show you how to do that in today's video. Now you'll also want to get your hands on one of these. We won't be using them in today's video, but to complete the project and complete beading around the ornament, you'll want to get your hands on a 2.36 inch plastic crafting ornament. Now I get these at my local hobby store and I buy them in bulk, but if you just want to buy them individually, I do sell them in my Etsy shop. Alrighty, so we just need to thread our needle with 3 feet of thread and then we can get started. So now I've threaded my needle and I'm ready to pick up my first 3 beads. Let's pick up 3 white beads. Now I'm going to take these 3 beads and I'm going to pull them down to the bottom of my thread. I'm going to leave about a 6-inch tail. And now I'm going to tie a square knot. So cross over on the top and then pull the tail through. And then cross over on the top and pull the tail through again. So now you should have what looks like a little snowman. Now I'm going to put my 2 fingers in the lower loop, the one that has the beads in it, and then I'm going to tug on the tail and the long thread until that top loop turns into a knot. Now I'm going to take my tail and I'm not going to touch it to the flame, but I'm going to get it super close so that it melts the tip. And it turns the tip into this teensy little knot or bead. Now with my fingers still in the loop, I'm going to pull on the long thread and twist the loop until that knot on the end of the tail reaches the long thread. Now I'm going to take my thumbnail and I'm going to pull that knot all the way down to the 3 beads. And it turns it into this tight little triangle, and that completes row number 1. Now if you notice, the knot is kind of right in between those 2 beads. So I'm just going to tug the thread over to one side so it looks like it's coming out of one bead. And it also looks like the thread is coming out of that bead too. So now let's pick up 1 red and 1 green. Now remember, when I say green, I mean the dark green, okay? And it looks like we're coming out of this bead with a thread, so we're going to sew through the bead that it's not coming out of. Then we're going to try to get those beads to sit right on top of the beads that are below them. I like to call those below beads the buddy beads. So they're sitting right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up one white and one green. And our thread is coming out of this bead, so let's sew through the next bead. And once again, trying to get those beads to sit right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up one red and one white and sew through the next bead. And this time we're also going to be sewing through the buddy bead that's right below it. In this case, I'm sewing through the white and the red bead. When we sew through two beads like this, it is putting our thread in position to start the next row. So I call that stepping up. So we have completed row number 2 and we're ready to start row number 3. Let's start row number 3 by picking up 2 red beads, almost called them buttons. And we're coming out of this bead, so let's sew through the next. Always making sure that those beads are sitting right on top of their buddies. Now let's pick up one green. And we're coming out of this green bead. We're going to, if you notice, the white bead right below the green is kind of set downward. We're going to skip the downward bead and we're going to sew through the up bead, the one that's right after that downward bead. And our new bead just kind of pops in place, sitting right next to that downward bead. So now let's pick up one white and one green and sew through the next. Now let's pick up one green and we're going to skip the downward bead and sew through the up bead. Now let's pick up 2 red beads and sew through the next. And now we're going to pick up one white, and this is the last bead in row 3. So we are going to skip the downward bead and sew through the up bead and also sew through the buddy. Sewing through those last 2 beads means that we are ready to start row number 4. Let's start with 2 green beads and sew through the next. Then 1 green and sew through the up. 1 green and sew through the up. 1 white and 1 green and sew through the next. Always making sure those beads sit where they're supposed to. 1 light green and sew through the up. 1 green and sew through the up. 2 green beads and sew through the next. 1 white, and sew through the up, and 1 green, and sew through the up bead and its buddy. Sewing through those last 2 beads means we are ready to start row number 5. Let's start with 1 white and 1 green this time. Then 1 green, one light green, one green, one white and 1 green, there we go, 1 light green, one green, one green, one white and 1 green, one green, one green, and 1 light green. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and now we get to start row number 6. Let's start with 1 white and 1 green, oops, one light green, one green, one light green, one green, two white beads, one green, one green, one green, one green, one white and 1 green, one light green, one white, one light green, and one green. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 7. Let's start with 2 white beads, one light green, one green, one green, 1 light green, 1 white, 1 silver and 1 white, 1 white, 1 green, 1 green, 1 light green, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 light green, 1 green, 1 green, 1 light green, and 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and now we get to start row number 8. Let's start with 2 white beads, 1 green, 1 light green, 1 white, 1 light green, 1 green, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 light green, 1 green, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 green, 1 light green, 1 white, 1 light green, 1 green, and 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and now we get to start row number 9. Let's start with 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 light green, 1 green, 1 green, 1 light green, 1 white, 1 white, 2 green beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 green, 1 light green, 1 white, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 light green, 1 green, 1 green, 1 green, 1 white, and 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and now we get to start row number 10. Let's start with 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 green, 1 green, 1 white, 1 green, 1 green, 1 white, 1 white, 1 green, and 1 light green, 1 green, excuse me, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 light green, 1 green, 1 white, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 green, 1 green, 1 white, 1 green, 1 white, 1 white, and 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads. And now we get to start row number 11. Let's start with 2 white beads. One white, one white, one green, one white, one white, one green, one white, one white, one white, one green, and one light green, one green, one white, one white, one white, one green, one green, one white, one silver, one white, two white beads, one white, one white, one green, one white, one green, one white, one white, one silver, oops, and one white. Sewing through the last two beads. And now we get to start row number 12. Let's start with 2 white beads. One white, one white, one green, one white, one white, one white, 1 green, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 2 green beads, 1 green, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 green, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 2 white beads, 1 white, 1 white, 1 green, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white, 1 white. Sewing through the last 2 beads, and that completes our 12 rows of our triangle. Now, if this is the first triangle you've ever done with me, you'll see that I add connection beads to some of the sides, and then other sides I do not add the connection beads, and that is so that we can match our units up together, right? So, and that, you know, once we combine all of the units, that's what creates our ornament. So I also cap the corners. So in this particular unit, we are going to not have any beads on this side, but we are going to have beads on this side for connection. And then we are not going to have any beads on the top. So to start this out, let's start by adding 1 white bead to this corner, capping it and turning it into a point. And now what I'm going to do, because there are no beads on this side that are going to be added, I'm going to turn over my triangle, and I'm going to start sewing up 1 bead, 1 row at a time. Now, I personally like to sew up this quadrant line right here. So that's how I follow it, making sure that I sew up 1 bead at a time, 1 row at a time. But you can really pick any bead that you want as long as your thread is not showing. And the goal is to get up to this corner bead right here. So you can just sew through any bead until you get there. Just make sure that your thread is not showing. And this is also when I like to ask the question of the day. So this is the first reindeer ornament that I have designed. So let's make it an emoji of the day instead. Type in reindeer in the comments, or just type in, or just put the reindeer emoji or a deer emoji if there's no reindeer emoji. And I can't wait to see all of the little reindeer that are in the comments. I love seeing those, don't you? Alrighty, we are almost to the top. And now we are at the top corner bead. So what we're going to do is we're going to cap this with one red bead. Our little holly berry. And now we're going to add connection beads up this side. So let's start with one green, then one white, 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 and one white. Now we get to cap our third corner with one white bead. And now we're going to sew up 6 beads without adding any more beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now I'm going to do what I like to call the zigzag, and it's just to make sure that we secure this last bead that we've added. So we're coming out of the top of this green bead. Let's sew down the bead right next to it. And then sew up the bead right next to that one. Now this is a little more secure, so let's sew up 2 rows or 2 beads, 1 and 2, and now we're going to do another zigzag. We're coming out of the top of this green bead. Let's sew down the light green bead and up the bead right next to that one. Now I feel that this is extra secure, so let's just sew up 1 more row and another row. And now we have completed our triangle, so let's cut off our thread by grabbing onto it with our long nose pliers, and then take our scissors and get as close as possible to the bead without cutting the bead, and just snip off that thread. Don't you just love watching the units come together and all the little patterns come together as you're sewing? Oh my gosh, I love that part so much. So we've completed this unit. We only need 5 of these, so go ahead and do this 4 more times, and I will see you in a second. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here with me today and beading along with me. Remember to like and subscribe and hit that bell button so you're notified when the next video comes out. I can't wait to see you there. Thanks for watching.